Good afternoon, everybody. So I wanted to have Councilwoman LaFortune speak before I did, because what I would like for people to understand is that her story, while impressive, isn't singular. I too came here as an undocumented immigrant, escaping a very violent situation in Colombia, and now I am a practicing immigration attorney. And I can guarantee you that in order to sit for the bar exam and be admitted to practice, I too had to prove that I am no criminal. So I encourage you all to keep an open mind, and when you're talking about these people, to remember the dignity and humanity that is in each human being before making grand pronouncements about who a class of people are. And I want to especially thank Mayor Elorza for taking the opportunity today to bring the community together and to assure the community in Providence that during this very uncertain time, he is providing some certainty by announcing that the commissioner and the law enforcement agents will not be cooperating with these enforcement actions. So I thank you for taking that very bold step today, and I know that it takes a lot to stand up here and do that as the executive of the city of Providence. That said, what can our community expect over the weekend and the coming weeks? There isn't much that we can tell you with certainty about what's going to occur over the next couple of weeks. The only thing that we can tell you is that based on some tweets and some information that has been leaked, it seems as though the targets of these enforcement actions will be people with outstanding removal orders. But that doesn't mean that those are the only people who will be affected. You have to remember that all of these actions have collateral consequences, and they affect everybody in the family and, in some occasions, in the community. Additionally, fortunately, we've had the mayor say what he said about Providence, but if you think about places like Arizona and Alabama and other places that are not as welcoming to individuals, do you really think that ICE and enforcement agents are going to sit there and parse out who the people with the outstanding removal orders are from the people who do not have outstanding removal orders are? I don't believe they will, and I've seen it many times in my practice where they detain now and ask questions later, and we're seeing that with the situation at the border. So it does take a community like this coming together and helping the people who are suffering from this uncertainty at a time like this. To our undocumented population out there, I want to make sure that you know what your rights are. First of all, if you have somebody knocking at your door, identifying themselves as an ICE officer, you absolutely have the right to not open your door. You have the right to ask that that ICE officer present you with a warrant that is signed by a judicial officer. And that is a very critical distinction from the warrants that they typically use, which are just signed by another ICE agent or officer sitting behind their desk at the offices of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Once you see a warrant signed by a judicial officer, then you probably should at that point turn yourself into the immigration authorities to prevent some of these collateral consequences that we were talking about earlier, like your family and friends being detained who may be in the home with you. However, if the warrant is not signed by a judicial officer, you do not have to open the door at all. Once you have encountered an ICE officer, if you encounter them coming home from work, or if you actually make the mistake to open the door before you realize who's behind it, you have the absolute right to remain silent. And this is very critical. You should not lie to an immigration official, however, you do not have to say anything at all. And that is a very critical distinction. You shouldn't say that you are somebody else because you're afraid that they're going to take you in, but you do not have to say who you are. And you should not say anything until you have had the advice and counsel of an immigration attorney. If you're unsure who to turn to, because there are a lot of attorneys and there are a lot of immigration attorneys and people don't know who they can trust in these uncertain times, you can reach out to your community partners like Dorcas International, Progreso Latino, Sojourner House, and the Catholic Diocese here in Providence. Those are the 4 BIA accredited institutions here in Rhode Island that can help you either with their own advice and counsel or by finding reputable immigration attorneys in the community that can help you. So just remember, Don't open the door until you've seen a warrant signed by a judicial officer, and don't say anything at all until you've had the opportunity to speak to an immigration attorney. And that being said, I would like to turn this over to Karina Valencia, who is the staff attorney for the Immigrant Rights Coalition here in Rhode Island, and she'll share a few words with you. Thank you.